Today on NewsWatch, she might be behind bars, but Kentucky clerk Kim Davis is not backing down from her refusal to issue gay marriage licenses. See which presidential hopeful is rallying her efforts. Plus,
as soon as I saw him on the ultrasound and they let me hear the heart, I started crying. Like that was it.
The powerful pro-life strategy that's helping mothers choose life. And the importance of human touch and why it's a vital component of our emotional health at every stage of life. Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Charlene Aaron. Protesters are rallying to support the Kentucky clerk jailed for refusing to issue same-sex marriage licenses. Joining them, presidential candidate Mike Huckabee, who is visiting Kim Davis behind bars today. Meanwhile, Davis has launched a new appeal of the judge's decision to lock her up. Kentucky County Clerk Kim Davis spent Labor Day weekend behind bars as hundreds of supporters rallied outside the detention center where she is being held. Davis was jailed for refusing to issue marriage licenses to gay couples because it goes against her deeply held Christian beliefs. There is growing pressure for her to back down, even from some on the right. But the Christian clerk offered a tear-filled message for her supporters Monday, saying God did not give us the spirit of fear, but of power and love and self-control. Davis's legal team has filed a second appeal to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals.
She has no intention of stepping down because she loves her people and loves the job.
They're asking that the state of Kentucky accommodate her beliefs by simply removing her name and title from marriage certificates.
This accommodation would cost the taxpayers nothing. You change the form and amend the statute.
Her lawyers suggest Kentucky Governor Steve Beshear could issue an executive order to solve the problem. But his office said that he wouldn't respond, saying the case was a matter between Davis and the courts. Yet many are still asking why she's in jail at all. Couldn't some other way have been found? In an article in the Wall Street Journal, William McGurn wrote, "Is clapping this woman in jail really the only solution?" Conservatives are outraged over Davis's imprisonment.
So when is it that liberals get to choose which laws they support, but a county clerk in Kentucky who, acting on her Christian faith, is criminalized, jailed, without bail?
Presidential candidate Mike Huckabee is visiting Davis in jail and hosting a rally in support of her today. CBN News will have more on the rally on Wednesday's 700 Club. And Huckabee says this is a clear case of judicial tyranny because Davis is simply trying to exercise her religious freedom. Congressional lawmakers are back in Washington after a long summer vacation, and the Iranian nuclear deal is the top item on their agenda. Republicans and a handful of Democrats say the deal makes dangerous concessions to Iran without really stopping the regime from working toward a nuclear bomb. They plan to pass a resolution disapproving the deal this week. Senate Democrats don't have enough votes to filibuster that resolution, but President Obama is planning to veto it, and Democrats do have the votes to uphold his veto. It all means Iran will likely get relief from economic sanctions and push ahead with their nuclear program. Well, European nations are struggling to keep up with the thousands of migrants flooding through their borders daily. Hungary, a main access point to the European Union, wants to speed up construction of a fence on the southern border with Serbia. And while some EU nations have pledged to take in more refugees, the influx is outpacing those pledges.
It's on biblical proportions. The people are coming quicker than we can load them.
Hungary has seen clashes at its border between police and refugees. Germany is expecting to take 800,000 refugees by the end of the year. France and Great Britain have pledged to take tens of thousands more, but Prime Minister David Cameron is stressing the need to deal with the source of the crisis.
That means helping to stabilize countries where the refugees are coming from, seeking a solution to the crisis in Syria.
Some lawmakers are pushing the Obama administration to allow more Syrian refugees into the United States, increasing the number to 65,000 next year. More than 100,000 Christians have escaped ISIS terrorists in the past year. Most are still scattered across the Middle East, but now there's a new proposal that could offer some of them a way out. Chris Mitchell brings us that story.
Christians in the Middle East face their worst situation in centuries. Human rights observers say the West must pay attention.
They need to know that Christians are facing genocide. They need to help these Christians. They need to help them with their prayer and with aid for them to leave.
After ISIS conquered Mosul and large areas of Iraq more than a year ago, thousands of Christians found refuge in Kurdistan, others in Jordan and Lebanon. They can't go back home, and they can't work. Nina Shea leads the Center for Religious Freedom in Washington.
ISIS stripped them of all their property, and when they went into exile, they went into safe havens that will not give them residency status, that will not give them work authorization. So they have no money, so it's a very bleak picture.
Shea hopes teaming up with Hollywood producer Mark Burnett will make a difference.
We've decided that for some of the most needy cases, they need to leave. They need to start their lives over. They need to be resettled in countries that would give them work authorization, that would allow them to rebuild their lives.
They plan to resettle these Christians in comfortable surroundings.
For the Armenians, Armenia, they're Christian, of course. The Orthodox countries, we're looking at Orthodox communities, we're looking at Orthodox countries, maybe Georgia, maybe Russia, maybe some places in Eastern Europe. For the Catholics, we're looking and Protestants, we're looking at the Western countries.
While the numbers are staggering, Shea adds that Christians face a greater danger.
Now, the difference with Christians is that they, underneath the conflict, they're not just running from a conflict, they're running from targeted persecution against them.
She calls on the church to not only pray, but to get involved.
The Church of the West and the free world, Latin America, needs to pray all the time. I mean, not just once a year, but pray every Sunday in congregation for these persecuted Christians. And if they can contact their political representatives and the candidates running for office to say the United States should take its share of Christians as well.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News.
New signs that Russia is ramping up plans to get more directly involved in the war in Syria. Russia has been increasing its military presence there, and President Vladimir Putin says Russia is weighing his options. Observers say Russia could be planning to send troops into Syria. U.S. officials are skeptical of Russia's intentions. Some believe Putin wants to fight ISIS to convince the West to lift sanctions against Russia that were put in place to stop Russia from trying to take more of Ukraine, or he could simply be trying to retain Russia's influence in Syria. Well, presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton says she won't apologize for her email practices while she was Secretary of State. During a Labor Day campaign stop in Iowa, Clinton told the Associated Press, quote, "What I did was allowed." Clinton also says she doesn't think the lingering questions about her email practices will damage her presidential campaign. Well, amid the email controversy surrounding Hillary Clinton's campaign, a new Democratic presidential contender appears to be emerging. Vice President Joe Biden. This weekend, he made rounds at Labor Day parades. At an event in Pittsburgh, he heard chants of "Run, Joe, run," which made speculation about his bid for office grow. So far, the vice president hasn't made any formal announcement that he plans to run for president. Coming up, see the mother of all buses and find out why 9 out of 10 women who come aboard decide to keep their babies. Planned Parenthood has unleashed a new business model with huge mega centers. The abortion company now performs almost a third of all abortions in the United States, 70,000 more than a decade ago. But as Heather Sells shows us, pro-lifers are fighting back with a simple technology that comes on wheels.
6 days a week, this big blue bus parks outside Planned Parenthood's huge abortion center in Houston. It's no doubt a major irritant, if not outright threat to the corporation's bottom line. That's because the bus offers free ultrasound images and pregnancy tests to any woman in need.
Life and death decisions are literally made on this bus.
Thousands of women have stepped aboard it since it first opened, and the majority of them have decided to keep their unborn children.
I love to be able to tell people about the bus.
It is so important. It's so easy to say, honey, we have help right here, right behind you in the bus.
For the volunteer prayer warriors and sidewalk counselors, the bus functions as the perfect resource. A sanctuary easily accessible to women coming and going right before their abortion.
Because there's a 24-hour waiting period, they will go into the facility for their ultrasound, then they come out afterwards, and then they go back in again for the abortion. And so the hope is that they will be able to pass a prayer warrior who will be able to hand them one of these cards at any given time.
That happened to Rochelle Scott, who thought she had to abort because she couldn't afford a second child. Her son Alan lives and thrives today thanks to the bus.
As soon as I saw him on the ultrasound and they let me hear the heart, I started crying. Like that was it.
What happens here is simple yet stunning. 9 out of 10 women who come aboard keep their baby. Even those who only moments earlier prepared to end their child's life just across the street.
Initially, they're very kind of nervous, confused, shocked. You can tell it on their face. They really don't want to, don't want to see it because they know that might change their mind.
They usually start crying as we begin and cover their eyes. And as we're continuing with the ultrasound, they start peeking out between their fingers. And we call it a baby and we call them mom. And look, your baby's sucking his thumb. Oh, he has the hiccups. And the next thing we know, they're smiling and crying at the same time.
Park says the power of this moment, helping a pregnant woman understand her new identity and the reality of her child, cannot be underestimated. She and all who operate the ultrasound machine will spend as much time as needed with the new moms.
She stays on that table until she decides she wants the baby.
More than 7,000 women have visited the bus since it opened 4 years ago. Nationwide, more than 1,000 crisis pregnancy centers, including a few mobile units, also offer free ultrasounds. One of the largest organizations, CareNet, estimates it has helped to save almost 400,000 babies. At the same time, Planned Parenthood is opening more mega centers, virtual abortion mills of 10,000 square feet or more. Unfortunately, their business model appears to have paid off, resulting in 70,000 more abortions a year compared to 10 years ago.
It really weighs heavy on us when we see a mom who comes and she sees her baby and we show her the models and, show her the heartbeat, play it for her back, and she still goes over there.
For Rochelle Scott, little Alan is a sweet daily reminder of her decision. She says both her boys have given her more determination to live her life well and have inspired her to write a poem about her experience.
So now I'm laid out on a hospital bed forgetting my faith, thinking that in killing, there's peace. Please. And then God kicks in. And then, a couple of months later, I have you, and you're crying, and I'm singing, hush, little baby, don't you cry. The sound of your voice, Alan, is priceless.
Reporting in Houston, Heather Sells, CBN News.
Up next, from ex-cons to newborns, why the sense of touch is so much more important than many people realize. Decades of research has shown that human touch is essential for babies to develop and thrive, but more recent research shows that it's just as vital for adults as it is for newborns. Caitlin Burke has more on the science behind the power of touch.
Thursday night Bible study in Skagit County, Washington sounds like your normal men's prayer meeting. The laying of hands isn't unusual, but it took these men some time to be comfortable receiving God's love through touch. Chris Hoke met most of them as chaplain of the county jail.
In the jail, guys don't touch. And on the streets they wouldn't. I think the only place they'd have it is just an over-sexualized sense of touch with girlfriends.
Julio was one of those inmates.
A lot of times there's guys that they're scared of being touched because they need to put up a front with that tough guy role. And when some stranger comes in and tells you he loves you and he gives you a hug, something you're not used to, it's a feeling that you feel that somebody cares about you.
It was surprising how much guys wanted a hug right when they came through that door. Just boom, they'd want a hug. And some guys would say, sometimes I come just to get my fix. I saw how much there's a hunger there for it, if it's healthy.
If you want to hold it.
So why this hunger for touch? According to neuroscientists, our brains are programmed for touch.
There is a whole array of compounds that play together in order to allow touch and social interactions to affect our brain. This is the hypothalamus right here.
The hypothalamus area of the brain produces oxytocin, which is released upon positive touch. That compound can reduce fear and increase trust. For many of these men, positive touch played a huge role in their healing and growth. But then one day, the jail instituted a no-contact rule. Inmates were allowed only what they called a business handshake, and chaplains were told to reject anything else. How did that loss of touch start to affect the inmates?
At first, to me, it seemed like the guys almost became more violent. It seemed to me, especially in those first few weeks, that more fights were breaking out, as if they were swinging for some kind of contact.
Dr. Aravich is not surprised at this reaction.
The lack of touching causes all kinds of changes in brain development and brain organization.
In the mid-1900s, Dr. Harry Harlow found this in experiments where he deprived monkeys of physical contact from birth. The results were heartbreaking.
If you take a social creature and isolate it and look at a part of the brain called the hippocampal formation, psychosocial deprivation actually causes a physical injury to that particular part of the brain. Our brains were designed to be with other brains.
Research shows the first sense developed in the womb is touch, as early as 8 weeks, highlighting the need for proper touch from day one. At Centera Princess Anne Hospital in Virginia Beach, new mother Rebecca chose to participate in an increasingly popular practice called skin to skin.
For skin to skin, immediately after birth, we try to have the baby go directly onto the mom's abdomen, so the mom immediately gets to hold and feel her baby.
40 years of research shows this contact leads to many benefits for babies and their mothers. How did it feel when you first got to hold him skin to skin?
It was an indescribable feeling. As soon as they put him skin to skin, that bond was there.
That secure bond gives baby Bryce a foundation that can help him throughout life, from academics to sports. In sports, trust between teammates is critical. So if positive touch creates trust, how could that help a team's performance? To find the answer, scientists left the lab and headed to the basketball court. Researchers at the University of California at Berkeley studied basketball teams over a complete season. After determining 12 types of positive touch between teammates during gameplay, they detailed the occurrence and duration of each one. Their results showed the touchier players in teams actually performed better than their counterparts. At the Bible study, these former inmates, who could only rely on themselves in prison, now learn to count on others. Chaplain Chris Hoke credits that to Jesus and how he's touched these men's lives.
I think that's what God came to do, is to touch us. Jesus crossed such a span between us so that we could be one. And so I think the touch is just the beginning of that, of a love story.
I feel like there's an intimacy with Jesus when two men are touching each other and praying for each other. You can feel the energy when someone is putting their hands on you, praying for you. You can feel the power of Christ going through that person's hands and going into your body.
Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
And what a powerful story, the power of touch, releasing the power of Jesus. Stay with us, we'll be right back. The movie War Room moved into first place at the box office over Labor Day weekend. This was the film's second weekend in theaters, earning an estimated $12.5 million. So far, the film, which cost about $3.5 million to produce, has grossed almost $28 million. Director Alex Kendrick says he and his brother pray that the film will show audiences what a powerful weapon prayer can be. Operation Blessing is helping children in Peru pursue an education. 12-year-old Bridget used to describe her school as sad. The light system didn't work well, the windows had no glass, and the floor was just dirt. The kids also didn't have books or textbooks. Operation Blessing renovated the classrooms and provided textbooks and supplies. Staff also learned that Bridget lived far away and faced a difficult trek to school every day. To help her stay in school and pursue her dream of becoming an accountant, Operation Blessing gave her a brand new bicycle. And you can find out more about Operation Blessing by going to their website at ob.org. And that's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find out more of our exclusive coverage of the issues that you care most about at cbnnews.com. And tell us what you think about what you've seen here today. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day and God bless.